Welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast, where game changers, visionaries, and category leaders share how they built their brands, platforms, and global influence. Your host is Mitch Carson, international speaker, media strategist, and creator of the Instant Authority System. If you're ready to learn from those who've done it and want to become the go-to expert in your space, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast. Today, I have Thomas Cole. We're both Americans living overseas with our respective backgrounds. Now, Thomas has been...
Oh, let me stop you right there. The name should be Tommy Kilpatrick, because that's my pen name. So maybe you could restart it, because I know I don't know why Thomas Cole.
Tommy Kilpatrick is in the house today on the Amazing Authorities Podcast. He's in the Philippines. I'm in Bangkok. We're both Americans living outside of the U.S. on this podcast today, and he is a credit card expert. I'm going to label him about how you can nuke your credit card debt. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, and you have a book. Tell us about your book.
Sure. It's called Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. And it talks about my personal experience in federal court and how the court system is all set up for language is law and law is language. So if you say you have a debt, you've got a debt and you can't get out of it. So it tells a story about in court, and it's a very entertaining story, but it gives you the foundation that you can challenge or actually, but the bottom line is you're going to ask the bank to close your free checking account, and they will do that and remove it off your credit report in 45 days.
Oh, so you handle credit reporting as well?
Well, that's what kind of led it to the middle of my thing. What happened is I'm an author, and I wrote a book on health and healing. And in 2004, I was given an infomercial contract, and things were going great, but I ran up my credit cards to live on it while we were test marketing. And then one of the talents got in trouble with the FTC, and I got my contract was canceled, and I left with $85,000 of credit card debt. So one morning I woke up thinking about my dad being a CPA. I was in school to be a CPA, even though I don't have a credential. I've done the work of one. And I realized the bank does not have an invoice. They have no debt. And then I remember reading the book Modern Money Mechanics, which was required reading in our accounting class, that the banks have to accept a promissory note to then write numbers into your free checking account. And I never signed a promissory note. My father at the time was an attorney and a judge. We had long conversations about fraud undoes all contracts. So I decided to file a federal lawsuit. I didn't really win. The judge threw me out. But a month later, when I looked at my credit report, all three of the bank alleged credit card debt was gone. So from there, a friend gave me a charity. So from the charity, I revamped it into credit repair, back to your kind of question. And then some of the people also had some credit card debt. And I explained to them it wasn't a debt. And all I had to do was write a letter to the bank, and it'd be off your credit report in 45 days. And I helped about 1,000 people in over that 10-year period for that.
Wow, that's amazing. I've heard about this credit repair. Now, what if you owe money to a dentist per se, that work was performed? I mean, I'm going to ask a personal question. I had to have an implant for a dentist. They quoted me a price of $1,900 to make the implant and the post of my tooth, not the crown. The crown I went back to the general dentist for. This happened in Las Vegas. This is a true story. And when I then checked out of the process with the endodontist who inserted the screw and put the post on, I said, okay, thanks. I paid it right there. A week later, I get an invoice in the mail for another $500. I said, and I called the practice. I said, what's this? Oh, well, that's for the post. He had to do a little extra work. I said, I chose you. I paid the $1,900 already. What is this for? I already agreed. I transacted. I paid on the spot. I pay my bills. And they said, oh, no, this is the additional charge. I said, a charge I didn't agree to. And they kept sending me notices for the bill. I said, look, don't do this. I'm not paying this bill. This was not a true transaction. I paid in full on the spot when the service was performed. To send me a subsequent bill, and what had happened was the office manager screwed up, and so she then sent the extra bill. She had undercharged me, underquoted me, is the reality. But then they ended up sending me to collection, and I refused, and it's had a problem. So how would you handle something like that? I'm giving you a challenge in real terms. This is me, full disclosure, but I refuse on principle to pay the bill.
That's fine. I'd have people coming in and they show the credit cards they had, and some were derogatory items, and we could, if they didn't report, that's the thing. If they don't report every month, you can challenge it and get it off. But if they're reporting every month, then that's where you got to deal with it. So in your particular case, you had a debt collector harassing you, and that's then you put it into the word fraud. Once you say fraud on a telephone, they hang up right away. But you can't let them do that. You have to then wait 1 second. What's your name, the company name? Let me have your fax number. Back then we did faxing, and the account number. So then you would write a letter back to them saying it's totally fraudulent. You're not allowed to harass me because that's in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And so you can quote that. And they have to prove that to the debt. There was no debt. You had an agreement. They came to a meeting of the minds. It was this much money. It's their problem. So they just thought that you could just, you would give up, and you give them the $500. And then the office manager would be a hero by not having that debt. But yeah, that's what they did after, sent you after collection. So we would do that all the time. So you kind of get into that, is that the credit card, there is a true credit card. So if you go to let's say a tire store and you buy tires, they put tires on your car, but you don't have the money. Why don't you apply for the in-store credit card? And you apply, you get it, great. So you drive off without paying. And at the end of the month, you get a statement. That's true. And they have an outstanding unpaid invoice, which is true. You have to pay that. So when people sat down, they said, well, I bought tires from Walmart, and you're telling me I don't have to pay that, but this one I have to pay? Yes. So how do you know the difference? Look on the back of your Amazon, Walmart, any department store. If it says issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of India, Bank of
Chase,
London,
whatever.
It's a fake card. It's not a true, because they did not put tires on your car. They didn't go into your mouth and put those posts in. The bank does not have an invoice, and that's the critical thing. You had an invoice, you paid it, you have a receipt, paid in full. You don't have this additional $500 charge. So you were right in that. And the same thing is with a credit card. When it's a credit card, you owe it. Okay. So all I'm asking you to do is have an open mind, a mind like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And to add the word allege, because we see the bank robbery on TV, we always say alleged. So now if you say alleged, then the bank has to prove that they have an invoice. They didn't do a service, or they didn't do a product, so they don't have an invoice.
That's interesting. That's the way so what is your book about?
The book's about how the bank has defrauded the entire world. This is a worldwide bank fraud. Then I'm like an accountant who has come across this fraud, and I bring it to the public's attention. Because what you're going to say then is that, okay, I agree. They didn't do goods and services. They're not a merchant, so they couldn't ever have issued a credit card, because the only way they can do a credit card is they have to have an outstanding unpaid invoice. Okay. Now you tell me, oh, it was a loan. Okay. Well, in your show notes and the second link, it has that quote from Modern Money Mechanics. What banks do is they accept your promissory note in exchange for writing numbers into your account. So when you want money and you have none, and you go into a bank and you want money, you normally come out with a loan, right? So let me ask you a question there, Mitch. If you apply for a loan and they turn you down, do you still get the loan? Well, of course not. You don't get the loan, you turn down. But if you're approved, because an application means a request, you have requested. If you were accepted, then you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. You have to prove you have an income, because how are you going to pay the loan back? If they go into court, the judges say, bank, you're loaning money to people who can't even have an income? That's predatory. So the bank has to have you prove you have an income. The other thing is you have to have collateral, like the house like the car. If you go for a personal loan, you put your yacht up. Well, now they can legally take that away from you, sell it. And if they come up short, too bad for them. If they come up long, they have to pay you the difference. They don't get to keep the difference. You put only up what the loan amount is. So when what happens is the banks want to have you, and also you have to have a credit report to show history. Your credit score determines your interest rate, and the last thing you sign is a promissory note. That's the only way the bank can write numbers, any number they want, into a free checking account. And so in that modern money mechanics, it makes a joke. It laughs at you. It's going, of course banks don't take depositors' money and loan it out to somebody else. There wouldn't be enough. So what they're doing is writing the numbers in your checking account as long as they have a promissory note. No promissory note, no loan.
No promissory note, no loan. Wow.
That's right.
But aren't they typically, isn't a package complete with a promissory note?
Well, that's the application, which you only requested. It's not a promissory note. It's a request. You have to fill out loan documents. Well, think about this. Let's say you buy a share of stock of Bank of America. You are now a shareholder. It's your bank. It's your money. Would you want your bank to loan out your money to people who don't have an income? There's no income proof of an application of a credit card. Do you want your money to be loaned out to people who aren't even going to pay it back, who don't even promise to pay it back? So if I give you something and I don't have you promise to pay it back, isn't that called a gift?
Oh, interesting distinction.
Aha. See, that's where my accounting comes into play. See, you've never had this experience. When I was in school to be a CPA, I read stuff. I have a memory. But my first job as an accountant, the CFO, the CPA, walked up to me and said to the accounts payable clerk, he said, if you pay for my statement, I'm going to fire you. And then he explained nicely that the company owners could have made a deal with this company. You don't know what we're doing behind the scenes. And look right here. See this invoice? It has a department head. Only pay from its approved one. So I can only pay from invoices. So the bank does not have an invoice, but on the other side, it didn't do a loan, because what banks are all about is loans. So what banks do is they want you to be a customer, right? So they have an advertising budget, of course. So years ago, they purchased toasters and wall clocks and had them in the bank and invited you to come in, open up an account, and we'll give you this toaster. It was a big deal back in the 50s, right?
Sure, sure.
So in a newspaper article, it had an ad and it said, come into our bank and deposit $25, and in 90 days, we'll match it. What did I do? I took my 25, put it into my savings account, waited 91 days, went into the bank and withdrew $50. 25 was mine and 25 was the bank, and closed the account. Did I do something illegal?
No. Maybe
No.
borderline unethical, but it wasn't illegal.
Oh, that was my next question. Is that immoral? Did I do something immoral?
If they promised it, then the answer would be no. Technically, no.
Right.
But
No.
but they're a business. No, I'm looking at it from the perspective. So I'm a bank manager. Of course, I want to keep the money, but that's the risk of the promotion. Because if the service was there to make Tommy stay, then you would have not taken the $50 out.
Right. The same in your show notes. Link number 4 is a guy on YouTube that says, just do that, what Tommy's saying. I've made $361 by doing this. So the same thing is with your $500 credit card. The bank gave you, that's the important thing, is they gave you a $500 credit card. No, it's not. It was a gift card, okay, to get you to be a customer. So what did you do? These cards came in the mail. You didn't even apply. You're pre-approved. Go ahead. Here's your $500 credit card from Capital One. You went great. So what'd you do with it? You went to Home Depot and you bought, let's say, a toilet, a golden throne. So you're walking out with that toilet and the person at the door says, did you pay for that there, Mitch? And you go, yes, I did. I have a receipt. Now, you didn't pay $500 to Home Depot, but that night or the next day, Home Depot was paid. Mitch, who paid Home Depot?
The credit card company.
The bank.
Yeah.
The bank. And where did
the bank of the credit card
from?
Yeah.
The bank got the money from the advertising budget. to get you as a customer, which we'll get
Sure.
into a second. What's this all about? So are you, Mitch, going to get an invoice like the dentist from Home Depot saying you owe us $500? Are you going to get a no? You're going to get a statement from the bank. Now,
Yes.
you get statements from the bank for your regular checking account every month. Is that a bill?
No.
No, it's not a bill. It's a statement, and that's what it is. Meant means you did something. State means you said something. So you never pay from a statement. It's not true. You only pay from an invoice. But that bank issued alleged credit card debt statement, alleged credit card statement, appears to be a bill. So you did the right thing, you did the moral thing, you did the legal thing, you wrote a check out. Let me ask you a question before we get into that. Is it possible that you, your audience, and me too, don't let me out, I'm not this smart, is it possible that we've been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? Is it
1,000%?
Right. So a lie is a lie. We know what that is, but told generationally, your parents told you a credit card, you got to pay for it. They pay them. Don't ever be late. You get these late fees, and there's an annual fee. Don't do those. Do the ones with a half free, no annual fee. And that's where if you don't question it, you're brainwashed. All I'm asking your audience to do is to add one word, is alleged. So when we say bank issued alleged credit card, now it puts the burden on the bank to prove this, and there is no loan. So what happens is that you wrote a check out from, let's say, Bank of Malaysia, and you sent it off to Bank of America, because that's the credit card company, right? So isn't that the first time Bank of America has ever seen your money? Think about it. Mailing comes in, you didn't apply for it, you went to Home Depot, you used your gift card, I would call it a gift card, and then you get a statement at the end of the month, and you write a check out to Bank of America. Isn't that the first time you've ever sent money to the bank?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So what banks do, they're involved in loans. So if you have no money, you go into a bank and you hope to come out with money through a loan. When you take money into a bank and leave it there, that's technically a loan. And that's your show notes in your very first link. So banks do not take deposits. This is a loan. You loaned the bank $500. Now your gift card turns into a debit card. Every purchase you've made since then has been with your own money.
You're right. It's
Every
a debit.
month you get a statement. You see how much you charge. They make you think you got to fill it back up. So what do? You're a good person. You keep filling it up. Well, what happens at the 2, 10, 5 years from now? You don't have the money. Do you have to put money into your checking account? No, it's my checking. I can decide what a balance it is, not with this one. And that's the fraud. Because what the banks do, here's the bottom line, is they make $23.04 on average per month. Look it up yourself. I typed it up. And it said, how much do you as a typical person pay in credit card fees? $23.04. So if Bank of America has 1 million card holders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. And that's about a fourth of their profits on a free checking account. What you got was a free checking account. You have been making payments, not payments, because that means that you have an invoice. See, if you use the language of the criminal, you're going to lose. So I have the right words to use. It's a bank issued alleged credit card debt invoice. It's not maxing out your card. It's withdrawing your money. It's no different than when I went into that savings account bank and drew out $50. 25 was mine, 25 was the bank's. It's not immoral. So you need to withdraw your money from your free checking account and then write a letter to the bank, ask them to close your free checking account.
I love it. But the
simple.
the $23 fee, that's the average amount they get per month?
I talked to one podcaster and he told me he pays $800 as an annual fee to a free checking account. So you think it all up, 79% interest rate, that's the highest I've ever seen. So all these interest rates, these late fees, the overdraft fees, the cash advance fee. Can you imagine going to your bank and say, oh, you want your cash out of the bank you just deposited? Oh, we're going to charge you 10%.
That's crazy.
It's literacy, and I'm the accountant. I'm not that bright, but someone else has got to think of this. So that's what I do is I help you, and I only help people who have a third party verification. What I mean by that is that don't believe me, don't believe anything I have to say. I'm a doubting Thomas. I want you to be a doubting Thomas. Look in the show notes, and there's links there. You check them out yourself and take this podcast to your CPA. They never would have heard of it, or just one person with a class of accounting. That's all they have to do is have that one class of accounting, and they know what I'm talking about is 100% accurate. Now, what do? I will only help people if they have a third party verify that I'm right. So what I do is I help them write a letter to the bank. That's pretty weak. What we could do is have your CPA write a letter to the bank saying there is no invoice. If you have an invoice, send it to me, I'll pay it. But since you don't have an invoice, and you broke federal banking regulations by claiming you have this loan when you never promised to pay. There's no loan ever was issued. That's good. Then you could have an attorney write a letter. Oh no, now you're talking about $300 or $500. No. There's a thing called prepaid legal, and now they made it called Legal Shield. For
Yeah.
$29, you have an attorney for a month. Don't use it any more than that. Quit after the first month. And you have an attorney write a letter to the bank saying fraud undoes all contracts. I do not have a contractual agreement with you, bank, because you defrauded me. You lied to me. You told me that this was a credit card. You can't issue credit cards because you're not a merchant. Then you tell me it's a loan. No, you can't because I never promised to pay you back. There is no obligation. There is no process. And so you did not issue a loan. You faked me. You've lied to me to make me pay $23.04 on average for a free checking account.
So I got a question. I had an account with US Bank when I was in Las Vegas. While I was in Japan at an event not too long ago, they canceled my debit card with them. And I called and asked, what's going on? I'm on vacation. I gave you the travel notice in advance. And they said, we don't disclose our reasons, but we've closed your account with no reason at all. And I needed to access my debit card, but then they said, we're going to mail your check to close your account. I said, but I don't live in the US anymore. I live in Thailand. And they said, we can only mail it to a US address. So it forced me to go back to America to pick up my check for the balance that was in my, and this is a week ago. This happened, well, 2 weeks ago. I picked it up. I came back a week ago. So I went into the bank with my check because they mailed it to a US address of a friend because they wouldn't mail it to me in Thailand. So I went to the friend's house, picked up the check, went into the bank branch that had canceled me, and I said, I'd like to cash this because there'll be a 45-day hold on my account here in Thailand. And they said, well, there's a $7 service fee, convenience fee. I said, because you don't own it, you don't have an account with us anymore. I said, you canceled my account. Don't you understand? You've held my money for over 2 months. And you want me to pay $7? And through the glass, the guy said, would you like to cancel the transaction? I said, no, I want my money. And they said, well, it's a $7 convenience fee. This is US Bank. So I tell everybody about this, how upset I am about how they handled me. It took me over 2 months to get my money, and I never got an answer as to why they canceled my account. They never disclosed it. The worst customer service on planet Earth. US Bank. Don't bank with them. I'm using that. That's in the show notes, as we say. And it was an awful experience. I don't know if you've had any, interactions with them, but then when I looked into them, they had the worst ratings in America.
Yeah. It's what you had was a checking account or a savings account, and you had a debit card. Let's turn that into a USA, credit card, and they lower your credit limit. No, they stole the money. You have $500 in your free checking account. They claim that they lowered your credit rating, or because your credit rating was lowered, they cut you in half. They stole the money. If they close your account for no reason, and you're asking, what's the reason? We don't have to tell you. They have confiscated your money. So what I do when I help people resolve the situation they're in, it's not getting out of debt, because when you have a debt, you got to pay it. It doesn't work for car loans. It doesn't work for auto loans. It doesn't work for a personal loan that you put collateral up and you actually did the loan process. This is just strictly the crime they're committing. So what you can do is actually, and what I add into with that letter is a lawsuit. You fill out, you don't file it. but you fill it out and they reach a brick. I'm talking all the discovery, the whole thing. We lay out exactly what they're doing, the crime. They don't want this published. They don't want this in the court record because then anybody could read that court record and do the same. They don't. We got to keep this under wraps. And the last thing I add in is an injunction. We are now familiar with the word injunction. Any one thing that Trump does, someone runs into court, files an injunction, so everything stops, right? Same thing. We send this to the bank saying, if you sue us, we're going to file an injunction. If we sue you, here's the injunction. So what you're asking the judge to do is to look at the outstanding unpaid invoice, a certified copy of the promissory note, and an affidavit of debt. Someone in the bank has to swear out on a penalty of perjury. That means time in jail or a fine, that you actually have a debt, and they have the evidentiary proof of it. So if they bank does not bring that to court in 30 days, they're held in contempt and everything stops. So we have the powerful way to stop this whole thing. So you have to take your money out of your account before you send the letter, because they're going to close your free checking account and not give the money like they did. Gave you a hassle. It's a convenience for them to make $7 more. It wasn't convenient for you, but that's what you've got to do is you got to take. So most of my people, I find them money they didn't even know. So the best client that I could ever have is a company that's about to go under, but they're a viable company. It's just because they have all this debt, they think. So I talk to the CPA, usually their CFO is a CPA, and they'll have a meeting together with all the board of directors and all the employees. And the attorney is going to say, a fraud has been committed on us. Let me have the CPA expert witness tell you. Folks, we don't have an invoice. They don't have an invoice, so we don't have a debt. Second of all, we never have a loan. So you don't have a loan. You got to stop thinking these words. What we've been is duped. And then the attorney says, fraud undoes all contracts. So we do not have a contractual agreement with this bank. We are writing a letter to the bank, asking them to close the account and to remove it off our credit report. That's all we want them to do is one thing, remove it off our credit report. My score is going to go up. The company's score is going to go up because they got $200,000 of this alleged corporate credit card debt. It's not a debt. There's not 1.3 trillion of debt. It's a lie. What it is, the banks want you to deposit 1.3 trillion back into your free checking account. You don't have to. There is no debt. It's not going to affect the banks at all, except 1/4 their profit is to be gone. So if we get you to do this, that's where the company will then add on any employees that want to do it. If they don't want to do it, fine, you can keep your debt. If you think you got debt, you got it. But we have this in 45 days. We expect this to be off our credit report. If the bank does not do that, we then notify the credit reporting agency that this has been a fraud. We notified the bank, and you must remove that error on the credit report. So you'll have your score go up.
But this wasn't a credit card.
Years later.
I don't think I was clear. It was a debit card in a free checking account, as you described. I got my money. I don't even know what my recourse is at this point. I got my money out of them 2 weeks ago. I'm just pissed off, legitimately, by what they did. And so. They were holding my money.
And that's the way the banks are operating. And the same thing, if you try to do that with YouTube, they never tell you what's the error. What is the guidelines? They won't tell you. It's just like, you got to make this up. And you got, it's a whole world has turned like this, like you're describing the USA event where you don't even know what did I do wrong. They don't.
I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything
wrong.
No, and it was some algorithm they claimed, and I was traveling overseas and using the card in Japan while I was there working, and they just, for no reason, closed. I had no issues. I had never done anything wrong. I had no chargebacks or nothing. It was some algorithm, and I never got a reason. And they stole my money for 2 months until I finally got it. And I had to fly to America to collect my money. That was expensive just to collect.
Yeah. So for some convenience for you.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Tommy, you've been a great guest. Thank you for your time. How do people get in touch with you?
They can reach me on Facebook, Tommy A. Kilpatrick, and it'll be in the show notes. And I have an email there. And so I offer a free 15-minute consultation. And if you do that, I will send you my $69 book for free. So I want you to read the book. You can figure it out. You can not get out of debt. You can close your free checking account.
All right. So Tommy A. Kilpatrick.
On Facebook.
On Facebook. Okay. Well, that's great. Well, thank you for your time today. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did too. You have a good day.
Great. Thank you so much. Will do.
Thanks for tuning in to the Amazing Authorities Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more experts like you rise to the top. For behind-the-scenes access and free resources to boost your authority, head to MitchCarson.com. Until next time, stay amazing.